Hi, my name is Eric Lair, and this is my vlog over the new student dialogue that I attended 10 years after 9/11, a dialogue on religious pluralism in the United States. And in this dialogue, we sort of talked about how 9/11 has affected us over the years, particularly focusing on religion, and how with certain religions, 9/11 has caused us to have certain negative connotations that we see reflected in our society today. So we kind of explored the effect that it's had on our society. And after the dialogue was finished, it became pretty obvious that the room was very silent through most of the dialogue, even to the extent where the leaders of the discussion asked us to reflect on why it was so silent. So that leads me to my first question. Did we achieve true dialogue? And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no. By dialogue, I'm referring to a discussion that's collaborative, focuses on exploring identities and differences, and sharing openly, and also introspection where people think about their own thoughts and feelings. And unfortunately, I did not think that we achieved this. I felt that there were only one or two active voices in the discussion. When the leaders would ask a question, it seemed like one person or one or two people were really answering most of the questions, and the rest of the room was mostly silent. And at one point, we were asked to split off into just individuals and to make a timeline of religion over our lifetime and sort of how our religious views have changed over time as we matured, as we went through elementary school, middle school, high school, and certain events that affected us religiously and how our religious beliefs sort of changed over time and things that brought about those changes. And after a while, after we were given sufficient time to make the timeline, we were asked to share it with an individual or two individuals. And I felt that that part of the discussion and the dialogue was much, much better than the other parts. I think having just a very intimate discussion with one other person allowed people to open up and talk a little bit more freely rather than speaking to an entire group, because let's face it, it's religion. It's a topic that a lot of people aren't very open about, and a lot of people feel very strongly about, so it's easy to offend someone, or it's also easy to be judged by other people. So I think that was something people were worried about talking in front of the entire group, but I feel like that worry was diffused a little bit when we had individual discussions with another person. Like I said, during the discussion, there were a lot of reserved voices. Not a lot of people wanted to come out and speak. And I think the problem was, along with religion being a very personal thing to talk about, also the fact that we were trying to focus on 9/11. And that was an event that happened quite a long time ago for us, 10 years. And looking back, it was difficult to remember some of the things that I was trying to remember, because at the time I had a very, very basic understanding of the events that occurred, and I had a very, very naive perspective on the event as a whole. So it was a little bit difficult to look back and try to draw conclusions now from things that I experienced as just a kid who really didn't understand what was going on fully at the time. I feel like if 9/11 happened today, I would be able to understand a lot better than I did at the time, and I would also pick up on things that I've since missed and forgotten about. So I think that was another thing that hindered the conversation a bit, because it was difficult to recall in extreme specifics details about 9/11. Personally, I attempted to join the discussion wherever possible. I tried to further it as best I could, and if there was a time when I thought I had something useful to offer, I did my best to offer it, but I feel that I was also a little bit quiet. And I think some of that had to do with being in a room full of complete strangers, asking to share about 9/11 and religion, that are both topics that are a little bit difficult to discuss sometimes because they have some controversy related to them. The thing is, dialogue is meant to lead us out of our comfort zone, and it's meant to let us talk about controversial topics. It's meant to broaden our viewpoints and allow us to collaboratively learn from one another. In a true discussion, one person would have been offering up information and somebody else would be taking it and building off of that, and somebody else would be taking it and building off of that. And unfortunately, I don't think that we are able to do that. I feel like I learned a lot from the leaders of the discussion. The leaders of the discussion asked good questions and brought up good talking points, and I feel that I learned from the leaders of the discussion, but not very much from the other students in the discussion. So it was not a total loss. I still learned something from the experience, but it would have been greatly enhanced by better participation from the other students. Now, again, on participation, while I'm sure some of it had to do with the fact that we're talking about a controversial topic, I think another part of it had to do with the fact that the New Student Dialogue was a mandatory assignment that all students were forced to attend. Clemson University must understand that because this was a mandatory assignment, a lot of the students there were just there to get the credit, and I felt like a lot of the students there were not really focused on the dialogue and were just kind of thinking about other things, waiting, looking at their watches, waiting until they got to leave and go get some lunch. So I feel that the quality of the discussion would have greatly improved if everyone had been fully invested in the discussion, in the dialogue. So I actually have a proposal to Clemson University that I would like to make. I feel that in future years that the New Student Dialogue should be an optional assignment. I feel that if students were given the option of attending or not attending, yes, I agree. I'm sure that attendance would drop. It's unrealistic to think that 100% of students would attend a New Student Dialogue. And I'm sure that there would be a large drop in attendance, but on the other hand, I think that the quality of the discussion would improve vastly because the students attending the discussion would actually want to be there. They'd be actively providing information and actively sharing and learning from one another, and they would be invested in the conversation. So, Clemson University, I propose a question to you. Is quality or quantity better? Is 100% attendance to a mediocre dialogue really better than a low attendance to a dialogue where students are fully invested in it and are offering up their ideas and openly sharing and learning from one another? I feel the overall experience of the dialogue would have been greatly improved if the dialogues were an optional assignment that students chose to go to, because this would just greatly improve the discussion and the dialogue that we had. So thank you very much for watching my vlog. Again, my name is Eric Lair, and I hope you enjoyed watching this.